So today we're going to be talking about scars. Okay, this is our second assignment. We did the bruisey stuff, and actually generally tend to use this. This is like a tiny version. It's called nose and scar wax. Okay, and it's very simple. I also have a couple of these things over there. This is the one that I always use, my personal one. We use a lot of sculpting tools and stuff because in a way, a lot of the makeup is kind of like doing clay and things like that. Like when I showed you the face and you could build up a nose, you know, and do certain things, okay? Some of it we do with latex. I'll show you a couple of different things with latex eventually. This here is stage blood. It's not supposed to stain, but you gotta be careful with it. We try to only use it in the areas that we need. This one's called the dark venous blood. Because obviously when you've hit a vein, like it's usually going to be darker. The artery stuff's usually like a bright red. Okay, we still going to use a little bit of our powder, and you really don't need much except a brush on this one. So you still got to kind of start keeping things clean and stuff. So first things first, this is scar wax. Okay, you don't really need a whole lot. This is about how much you need. The biggest problem that most people have is that they're going to they try to use way too much, like that picture I kind of showed you, okay? This is what it feels like. Let me pass that around here, okay? It's sticky, right? So that's why I constantly kind of have something so that I can manipulate it.
Ew.
I want to make sure,
My bad.
that I'm ready for that. Donka, get her. And what we try to do, she's already done this yesterday, but what we try to do is obviously, when you look at it, it's hard. So the thing about wax is you got to do this for a while, right? You got to warm it up. You got to get it so that it will work and be pliable and the whole thing, okay? And we could, again, use our morgue. We could find examples of cuts or try to figure out how to do things with, like we were talking about yesterday, like staples or stitches, like all of that kind of stuff, okay? But eventually, here's really what we do, okay? And I got a couple of these different ones up here so that you can kind of look at them. I just kind of grab them. I'm going to try to grab a couple more, hopefully from the art room. But here's what we got. Okay, so first things first, you're gonna create a worm, okay? And I always just kind of do it like right here, just so that it's kind of nice. Now, we would do this differently depending on how long the actual show was. We might create like a latex, like a reusable thing, like a model or whatever. If you're using this, we might try to glue it down with some spirit gum or some other stuff that we use like as a glue, like it's a natural type of glue. This one will stay for what we want to do because once I've got it like warm enough, really all I'm doing is this. I'm taking it and I'm making a worm. Okay, and I know that's weird, okay? And again, this is the model. You don't need the largest cut known to mankind, okay? And then I would take that and just place it like kind of where I want it, okay? And it's gonna kind of be, I guess, right in there, okay? Again, super hard sometimes, so I'm just gonna come around like this so that I can kind of work a bit closer. But that's why, like I said, it's sticky and I'm constantly trying to, make sure I can kind of mess with it. Now what you're gonna do is something that this is good for. Oops, there we go. Well, this is what will help it be there. And you can kind of mess with this. You don't need to make it like a straight thing. You can take it in different areas. You can bend it. But what you're really doing right now, in order to get this to stay, and you want to be very careful with it, you're just going to pull it down a little bit on the edges. Okay? And by doing, I forgot to bring in the Vaseline. Dang it. I'm going to remind myself. Okay, when I start pulling it, I want to leave the middle because that's where the cut's going to be, right?
Put it down.
But I pull it down, and the reason, it kind of looks funky right now, right? Just because, like I'm pulling it with this thing, and it's only going to have like a certain amount. You don't want to leave too much, but you also don't want to take away so much that you can't cut it, right? So that shows me where my cut's going to be. Okay. Now it's super sticky, and smoothing this out would be really hard. We generally use Vaseline, just a little dab, because
I got some Aquaphor.
this will work too.
Oh,
if I just use a little bit. It's just a teeny bit though, not that. Okay, just a lotion, right? Because the lotion makes it so that it smooths out a little bit, right? The same thing that a Vaseline would do. So you'll notice, like, I'm able to then like take this and kind of go like that. Hey, and Gold Bond's good for your skin too, right? So like when I'm pulling this down, you can already see that like I'm able to start smoothing this out, right? So then it doesn't look anymore like it's got like teeth marks. By the way, that is how we do bites, right? We'll take something like this and we could put a half moon on either side, and then this one you'd want to pull down and have all straight, but the other one you would pull down and leave, right? Mm-hmm. And it would look like teeth, like at that point. So then you can bring stuff out of it, you can make it a zombie bite, you can do whatever, okay? So I start, I do that, make sure this is down, okay, for all of this, and it's good. And you can do different things. This gives it a little more of a jagged edge, right? If you were doing something like, I wish I had all my photos, but like I had somebody, you could put it like pretty flat up top and then use your base makeup to make it look like your skin tone and then just drag the cut through it. So it looks, and that's the thing. Normally what we would do at this point, which we're not going to do, but there's a type of makeup called your base or your foundation, right? And this is where we actually test for it, right? If it kind of matches here, it's gonna be like a good match for your face. And we put that on the bottom so that way we can layer the other stuff on, but then when the lights hit it, your face is there. So the reason we would use a base at this point is kind of like to go over this and make it look your skin tone, okay? But I'm not gonna worry about that right now because a lot of times you don't have to worry about it when you're doing something like this. Best thing on a sculpting tool then is this portion, like the pointed thing, because now I just use this as my knife, right? And I've got this area where I can just come down here and just like drag this through, following that whole ridge thing here, and I can cut him up, okay? And I can deal with it with some other ways. I can still smooth this out a little bit, okay? A little flap of skin sitting there, all of this kind of stuff, okay? Nice little jagged, whatever you want, okay? And our basic philosophy kind of is blood will out. If I feel like I've got too much stuff in here, again, I can just bring it down, right? And then I can smooth it back out again, right? And I can still just right in this area, like come out like this, right? Where, where you still got that kind of thing in there. Okay, now again, the skin does pucker, it does come up when you do this. Also, when we're talking, even though this is a small one, we're generally talking about like stuff for skin, right? Although you can make this look pretty good if you run an extreme vignette and do stuff like that, okay? Once we get that cut into there, we don't have to do too much but hide it, okay? And there's a couple of things that we do. First things first, you gotta get down and we gotta get the bottoms of that cut done, right? Because we don't want to, I do a little mixture of both of these, right? We don't want them to see the wax through the cut, like the blood, right? So I'm just gonna go in here and I'm gonna kind of give it more of that dark bottom, right? Just gonna move through here where like now we won't see that, okay? Depending on how new it is, you can do a couple of different things with the other things, but right, I'm just doing that so that I don't have to, when that blood goes in there, It's definitely going to darken it up. If I were using like more of a like a arterial blood thing or whatever, I might want to use the bright red, you know, that kind of stuff. Okay. The next thing you can do then, and that's why I said I keep trying to get this thing down, you know, so it's somewhat clean. I'm going to hide the other stuff with the red, right? We're going to keep close in here, okay? Like around the edges of this, you know, where those edges are and the cuts, you know, I gotta kind of, you know, I don't want them to see this wax in some ways, you know, so I'm gonna get up on these edges, right? If I wanted to, I could use stipple and other things. You can use, you know, like some of the blending techniques out here to like get more, you know, stuff around, you know, where things are. Like I said, depending on how old it can be, you can even get like, you know, things like, you know, bruises to like hide specific places, things like that. Might want to get a little bit of the darker stuff here, get some of the you know, the highlight on there, but you know, come in and around these areas. And you'll also kind of notice, like, again, this would be your base, but it's already kind of more along the lines of like the skin tone anyway. Okay, so we start playing with that, depending on, you know, what you're trying to remake and stuff like that. That's roughly how we do it. Okay, it's still, though, at this point, it's really sticky. Okay, so we actually do still kind of set that. Okay, we want to take the stickiness out of it. We want to make sure that, like, you know, we can do stuff with it. So we're still just going to be super gentle. We don't want to smush this down too much, right? We're still going to try to get some in there where we can kind of mess with that. Still going to be super gentle, okay? And we're going to just kind of get some of it. The next thing you're going to do is you've got to take the blood, right? And you're just going to kind of drip it, right? I'm going to use this to focus it in, right? Just going to put that blood like in here, right? Don't want to get it all over because I don't want to have to like mess with everything. And he's just got a big gash like right in here, okay? And I can paint that into some areas too, right? If I wanted to, like the one we did yesterday, I could give you enough to like make it like drip down, right? You just use gravity for that, or mavity. And you'll notice on some of these pucker areas too, where I've got some of the reds, if I want to just give it a little more whatever, I can just go ahead and I can use some of that. And this will actually dry a little bit. The Venus stuff has a little more of a, you know, what do you call it? Like a gel to it. And so you end up, you know, being able to, you kind of do that. If I wanted to just fill this up a little bit, okay? So your first thing to do is going to be to recreate some sort of like small scar like